So in this session, we want to talk about the mandate to multiply leadership. And when we are talking about the mandate to multiply leadership, we are referring to the fact that leadership is not about you, but about the people. Your leadership must be people-centric if you must make your mark in this world. Your leadership must focus, must centered around people. And that is why I believe the scripture tells us that in the multitude of people is the king's honor. In the multitude of people is the king's honor. So your accomplishment as a leader lies in your ability to engage the people. Your accomplishment as a leader lies in your ability to engage the people towards a positive end. It lies in your ability to engage with people. So, what is the true call of leadership? Multiplying your leadership is the cross of an effective leadership. That is the main big idea of leadership. Take people out of your leadership, and what you have is that you are merely taking a stroll. When you look at your back and you don't see people who are inspired and motivated to do what you have asked them to do, you are only taking a stroll as a leader. So, multiplying leadership is the big idea of an effective leadership. It is the centerpiece that holds your accomplishment together. Vision cannot be fulfilled without people. The Bible says that without vision, the people perish. But it is also important for us to know that without people, vision also perishes. So, multiplying leadership is the centerpiece that holds your accomplishment together as a leader. Multiplying leadership, for me, in my own little way, I've been privileged to occupy one leadership position or the other from year 2000, and over the years, I've always come to realize that multiplying leadership is one of the most important, noticeable, refreshing, exciting, and attractive part of leadership. But in most cases, it can also be highly demanding. It's not an easy task, just like the question that our father just asked in the previous session. It's not an easy task. It is very, very demanding. But multiplying leadership, it can also be very exciting. It is an important part of leadership, because if you don't mobilize people towards a goal, you are not going to accomplish your dream. You, as a leader, one of your function is your ability to mobilize people. And when we are talking of mobilizing people, we are not referring to you trying to coerce people, because that is what a lot of people are doing today. They want to force people. They want to make people do what people don't want to do. And you don't want to do that as a leader. You want to motivate people. You want to inspire people. You want to gently lead people to accomplishing a goal for the organization. And when you despise this function as a leader, that is to multiply leadership, you do it at your own peril. There are 5 different ways of multiplying leadership, and we are going to talk about each of them. But in reality, these 5 ways of multiplying leadership, they are kind of intertwined, but it's just for the sake of learning, teaching, and training that we've decided to separate each of those components. But in reality, they cannot be separated. They often work hand in hand. There are 5 ways to multiply leadership. Number 1 is through modeling. Number 2 is through mentoring. Number 3 is through monitoring. Number 4 is through motivating. Number 5 is through a movement. And I'm going to explain each of them one after the other. Now let's begin with modeling. I'm sure every one of us in this training, we've had people talk about role model. You hear people say, Venerable S.F. Michael is my role model. Maybe Brother Obiora is my role model, or so and so person is my role model. I'm sure we've all had people talk about role models in their life. And I'm going to tell you perhaps something you don't know about role model. When we talk about a model is a prototype of something that can be produced with exact features, exact qualities, exact functionality. Everything in the model can be replicated. That is what we mean by modeling. So when you say somebody is your role model, what you are saying is that you are able to replicate exactly everything that person has been able to do. And the significance of modeling is that it produces 100% result. I like you to mark that in your mind, that modeling always produces 100% result. I did not say 99.9 results. It is 100% results. And to model, you must assume the state, the disposition, the physiology of the person you are modeling to get the 100% result. Somebody might be asking, do we really have examples of people who have produced 100% results of another person they are modeling their life after? I will say yes. And I am going to prove it to you. I'm going to say to you that Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Nelson Mandela are one example of a perfect model. Mahatma Gandhi was the model. Martin Luther King patterned himself after Mahatma Gandhi, and he produced exactly the same result that Mahatma Gandhi produced. In the same process, Nelson Mandela followed in that same pattern and produced exactly the same results. Now, even if we go to the Bible, you remember Elisha and Elijah. You know that these two, Elijah in his ministry raised the dead. Is that not correct? So also Elisha in his ministry did the same what? He also raised the dead. Let me also bring you to Jesus and Peter in the Bible. When Jesus raised the daughter of Jairus from the dead in the presence of Peter, James, and John. When Dorcas died, it was that experience that Peter got from Jesus when he raised the daughter of Jairus that Peter used to raise Dorcas from the dead. And there are so many other examples that we can point to. You want to talk about Eli and Samuel in the Bible. And I'm going to tell you the dark side of modeling. It also has a dark side. Everything Eli produced as a priest, Samuel was able to replicate 100% results. Even to the training of their children. Do you know that the children of Eli were wayward? And if you read your Bible, the children of Samuel too was also what? They were wayward. That is the problem of modeling. You can also copy a wrong thing and it will still be modeling. That is the danger of modeling. And that is why we say that the significance of it is that it produces 100% result. So when you are looking for a model, make sure you are copying the right model. And if there is any comma or any error in their life, please don't copy the error. Don't copy the error. And what is the slogan of modeling? It is, I do it. That is the slogan. The person you are modeling has done it. And you can say it. So my question for you is, who is your role model? Now let's move to the next one, which is mentoring. The most significant aspect of mentoring, I'm sure every one of us should be familiar with mentoring. For me, becoming an Anglican priest, it was a seamless journey for me because Venerable Michael was there to provide mentorship for me. In fact, I could remember when I was preparing for seminary, he had to take me in some lessons that I needed to know, because I could remember that some of the things he taught me in our private coaching were some of the questions that were asked when I did my seminary entrance exam. And it was easy for me to pass because I had somebody who was able to mentor me. The most significant aspect of mentoring is that it is like a father-son or mother-daughter relationship. And the key word is mimicking or imitating. Every one of us, I believe, we have children, or some of us have children, and we always know that children always like to mimic or imitate their parents. And that is why we don't want to be bad examples to our children. Because sometimes you see yourself as a priest. Sometimes I see my children, they will put on my collar and my collar, and then they will be trying to make gesticulation to try to preach. What are they doing? They are mimicking their father. They are imitating their father. And we have seen some children who eventually came into the ministry through that experience. So, mentoring is like providing a father-son relationship. And it doesn't have to be a biological father-son relationship. It could be a relationship between you and somebody who is not even your biological, who is not even related to you biologically. It could be anybody. But what you are doing is that you are providing mentorship for that person. For example, Institute of Clinical Pastoral Education of Nigeria is providing mentorship to aspiring hospital chaplains so that they can be able to function as chaplains in the future. That is a form of mentorship. What I am doing with School of Transformational Leadership, trying to provide this training for us, is a form of mentorship. And if you want to be good at it, is that what do? Is you try to mimic what is being done here. You try to imitate what is being done here. I'm not saying you try to mimic the way I talk or the way I speak or the way I move my body, but you are mimicking and imitating the actions that will bring positive results to you. And the slogan for mentoring is, I do it and you watch me. I do it and you watch me. You are not doing anything at this point, but you are just watching me. So my question to you is, who is mentoring you? Who is your mentor? Who is mentoring you? And who are you mimicking or imitating? Very, very important question to ask yourself. Now, the next way of multiplying leadership is through monitoring. Like I said, these things does not occur independently, but we are only separating them for the training purpose that we are doing. In most cases, they all go together. You can provide modeling, mentoring, monitoring, motivating for people all at the same time. But we are only separating them for our training purposes. Monitoring. Monitoring is a form of delegated. Now, listen to me. I did not say it's a complete delegated leadership. It's a form of delegated leadership. But the key here is to monitor through a feedback mechanism to assess performance and offer support where necessary. That is the difference between a full delegated authority and a partial delegated authority that monitoring provides. In monitoring, you are also providing oversight through feedbacks to assess performance and to also offer support where it is necessary. And the slogan for monitoring is, you do it and I watch you. So that means you now, as a trainee, you are now beginning to exercise your leadership ability, and your mentor is now sitting somewhere watching you to see whether what you are doing is right or wrong. Just like we have in the case of Samuel and Eli. At a point in time, Eli was the one doing everything. Samuel was only watching. At another point in time, Samuel was now the one doing things, and Eli now providing oversight. And at another point in time, Samuel now took full responsibility until he even copied the mistakes of Eli. So the slogan is, you do it and I watch you. So my question for you is, who are you giving permission to have oversight over you? Who are you giving permission to have oversight over you? I want you to ponder on that question. And the next one, the next way of multiplying leadership is through motivating. Through motivating. Motivating is a complete, can you see that? Is a complete delegated authority that requires no immediate supervision. Is a complete delegated authority that requires no immediate supervision. In this situation, the mentor is now asking you to go and do it. I'm not going to provide any oversight over you. You know, there is something very funny, not very funny, but very insightful in the Bible. In Luke chapter 10, either chapter 10 or chapter 12, where the Bible said concerning the disciples of Jesus, the Bible said Jesus Christ sent them into cities where he himself would go. And what did he send them to go and do? He sent them to go and heal the sick, to go and raise the dead, and to go and do all sorts of ministerial function, to go and perform all sorts of ministerial function. What was Jesus doing? He was providing money. He was providing motivation for them. He was sending them to where he himself will eventually come. So he's asking them to go and do it. He has empowered them enough, so go and do it. And that is why we said there are three responsibilities of a leader. You are to care, to nurture, to equip, that is to train, and to empower, and that is to release. So when you are motivating people, you are releasing them into their own destiny. And the slogan is, you do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. You can do it. And the question people will want to ask you as you are taking this leadership responsibility is that people are going to be questioning you. By what authority are you doing these things? You remember they asked Jesus the same question. They said, who gave you this authority? By whose authority are you doing these things? You see, when you begin to exercise your leadership ability, people are going to query you. They are going to ask you questions. By what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you the authority? And this is what I call reality checks on your leadership ability. That is putting your dream to the test. It's like putting a reality check on your leadership ability. People are going to ask you, who is your motivator? Who is giving you this authority to do what you are doing? Who gave you this authority? And by whose authority are you doing these things? When that time comes, you better be able to know where your authority, your leadership authority, is coming from. Now, the last way through which we can multiply leadership is by creating a movement. Is by creating a movement. A movement is what you create when you multiply leadership. You create a movement, and it is transitioning your legacy to another generation. It is passing on of the baton to the next generation. And the slogan is, let's multiply. So everything we have been talking about, leadership, the climax of it is to create a movement. When India wanted to get independence from the British rule, it started with one man Mahatma Gandhi. He was the one who started the work. Then people began to join him one by one until about 1,000,000 people joined him in that march, which brought the colonial power down in India. The slogan is, let's multiply. Let's do it together. Don't let this leadership idea die with us. Let's take it to the next generation. Let's preserve posterity for ourselves. And how do you create a movement? I had already said it. By nurturing, to care, by equipping, to train, by empowering, to release. And how does it work? You nurture, train, and release a leader who in turn nurture, train, and release other leaders, who also nurture, train, and release other leaders without breaking the circle until a movement is created. And the question you want to ask yourself here is, what is my legacy? What is my legacy? Now let's wrap it up by talking about succession plan, a concept that is very, very foreign to our African context. Succession plan. Every leader should work towards raising other leaders who will take their place. But a lot of leaders that I have seen in Africa, they don't want others to take their place. They want to die in leadership. They want to die in their position as a leader. And that is why we have not been able to make much progress in Africa, because we don't know how to transit from one generation to another generation without breaking values along the way. So every leader should work towards raising other leaders who will take their place. And I believe that this is one major mistake a lot of organizations are making today, a lack of a succession plan. That is why you see a lot of companies in Africa, they only live during the lifetime of their founder. When the founder dies, the companies also dies with them. When I was much younger, I cannot count the numbers of Odutola companies that were around in the Ijebu-Ode area when I was much younger. But I am sad to tell you that none of those companies exist today. And that is as a result of lack of succession plan. They are not planning for the future. We are not planning for the future. We are only interested in we occupying the leadership position. But if you must preserve your legacy as a leader, you must have a succession plan in place. And this cut across every level of leadership. Succession plan. And the Bible says, in the multitude of people is the leader's honor. So what is your succession plan? That is the question that I want to leave with you. Thank you. Thank God this session is very brief. And I think, although it's very brief, we are able to gain something very valuable. Do we have any question? Let's ask our questions before we move to the next slide. I believe we should be able to finish in the next 1 hour.
Wow.
Any question?
Wow.
Or you can put your question on the chat box and we can read it. I think that will also be good if we can do that. Any question, observation, or contribution is very important. The the proof of learning is questions that you are asking. If you are not asking questions, it means something is not being generated in your mind. Okay, somebody has put something on the chat box. What is that? I can't see it. Okay. Okay, the person is just thanking me for the session and saying there is no question from his own end. Thank you, Brother Olivia. God bless you, sir.
Wow. I wouldn't. This sounds like a very wonderful session for us, and I think we will continue to appreciate this opportunity given to us to learn.
Thank you.
My mind was it's like a question, but I wouldn't know as we struggle also by ourselves. What role, what is expected of us when we are placed under someone that uh, is over us, like our superior.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned that we should not learn in the area of mentorship, that we should not learn we shouldn't copy or mimic
The
their
error.
bad stuff. But to us, sometimes you know that we always feel that everything about someone like that they like a figure that we venerate, we think that everything about them is always perfect, it's always good. How do we not separate?
Yeah.
For instance, you mentioned someone like Eli,
Yeah.
and Samuel. Samuel came to the man as a young man, and Samuel will believe, I'm not defending him, that everything he met, saw Eli doing, was perfect. How do we separate the line in between the two? That is my own question.
Thank you, sir. Uh, I think that is the reason why this kind of leadership uh, teaching is very, very important. Uh, I wouldn't want to blame Samuel too, because that was all that he knew. And it was easy for him to relate with all that he knew about Eli. And unfortunately, he also copied the mistakes of Eli. But for us, there are so much leadership materials out there. There are so much teaching about leadership today that there have been in the last in the previous uh, 30 years ago. In the 70s, there is no much teaching on leadership. Leadership only came into the mainstream in the 90s. So you can see that leadership is still relatively new in our society. Not that leadership has not always been there, but people have not really focused on leadership, unlike the way they focus on management in the previous century. So leadership is a concept that is beginning to gain ground, that people are becoming more aware of, and that is why we also talked about the myth of leadership. And one of the myths of leadership is that people tend to believe that leaders are flawless. That is not correct. Leaders are not flawless. So you cannot take everything that a leader says uh, hook, line, and sinker. You have to be able to distinguish what is right from what is wrong. And going through leadership training like this will offer you the opportunity to be able to have that level of discernment. It is unfortunate that Samuel couldn't lead his children in the way of the Lord, because he didn't have the right example in the life of Eli, and he also fell into that same error. So I think the best thing we can do is for us to know, now that we know that we mustn't just copy people. There are some people, they just copy people blindly. Probably maybe I have also been in that shoe before, but I am more wiser now. I don't take everything anybody says for exactly the way they say it. I try to justify whether what they have said is right or wrong. I am a little more like the Berean Christians who will go back home and do a little research on whatever anybody has said to verify whether what they have said is right or wrong. So I think we should all cultivate the attitude of those Berean Christians by always verifying things for ourselves and holding on onto that which is true and right. And of course, that is one of the core value of a transformational leader. You must be able to verify things. You must not be presumptuous. You want to verify whether what people are saying is the right thing to do. Thank you, sir. Somebody has just put a question up. He said, in the picture of phlegmatics in temperament, who are more or less slow in decision or less motivated, how can your goal of climbing with such people be fruitful? You see, my understanding of of the different temperaments that people possesses is that I want us to know that there is no temperament that is bad, and there is no temperament that is the best. Everyone, whether you are phlegmatic, you are melancholic, you are which other one do we have now? We are choleric, or we are there is still one other one. Whichever, sir?
Sanguine.
Phlegmatic.
Sanguine.
Whether you are sanguine. So whichever
Yes.
one you are, it will still depend on how you are able to fine tune and how you are able to develop. Those temperaments are your core self, but you still need a lot of work to do to refine them so that they can suit your personality. Like for me, I am not a sanguine and I don't pretend to be one. But that doesn't mean because I am not outgoing, I am not able to make a place lively. That doesn't mean I cannot achieve. There are some people, like I have one of our bishops that just retired recently in the US, who is like a father figure to me. This man doesn't make noise, and that is what everybody knows about him. He doesn't make noise, but he achieves more result, better result than even people that are all over the place. So for the fact that somebody doesn't, they are very slow in the way they do things, they look not moving, that doesn't mean they cannot achieve. All they just need to do, or all that we need to do, is to help refine that quality that they already possess, and then help them to use it for their own advantage. Being a phlegmatic is not disadvantageous. There are other aspects of phlegmatism that are also advantageous, that a sanguine, for example, may not. For example, a sanguine, even though people may like somebody who is outgoing, a sanguine can also be a talkative, which can be very bad on its own. If you are too much of a talkative, you can easily repel people from being able to pay attention to you. They will tell you he talks too much, he doesn't allow other people to share their own view or their own opinion. So you don't want to go to the extreme of all this temperament. You always want to be in the middle, and by trying to make sure that you equip yourself to the point that you are able to use those gifts to produce results for you. So I wouldn't say that phlegmatism as a temperament is necessarily a disadvantage position that those people are. All that we need to do is to provide this kind of leadership training support for them so that they can grow, they can learn, and then produce results. You need to know the bishop I'm talking about. He doesn't talk. He's not a noisemaker, but his result speaks for him, and I know what I'm talking about. Is one example of a phlegmatic that I can point to you who is achieving superior results than those who are even sanguine. Thank you, sir. Any other question? I hope I've been able to answer your question, sir. Odan Dubusi.
Yes, I think.
Thank you, sir.
I want us to move on to
the next slide.
as a suggestion. If we have further questions, we'll jot it down.
Okay, and then ask at the end.
Order together at the end of the day. Okay. Yes, sir.
That would be good, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Because we should consider you sitting down with us 2 hours now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.